In 2024, Nature published an article that would completely upend our understanding of the Ice Age in the Southern Hemisphere. By studying information stored in cave formations, it was found that the Ice Age in the Southern Hemisphere was much wetter and plant-rich than initially expected. Now, while this study is incredibly interesting, what I also want to ask is how well was this study communicated to the public, and how did the public take this information? So, what was this study, and was it credible? Long story short, this study examined multiple cave formations, known as Speleothems, that had formed throughout the Southern Hemisphere over the past 350,000 years. These Speleothems form by surface water seeping through the pores in the limestone, dissolving the limestone as it does so. When this water enters a cave, it will leave behind the limestone as calcite, forming a Speleothem. Thus, for cave formations to grow, you need surface water seeping through the rock. Also, we can date these Speleothems by studying how much uranium there is compared to lead trapped inside the calcite crystal. Hence, we can figure out exactly when they were growing. What this study found was that these Speleothems were growing during glacial periods, ice ages, and were stagnating during the interglacial periods, or the not so much of the ice age. Hence, there seems to be much more water during the ice age than initially expected, or at least much less evaporation, while the interglacials were much drier than we thought, which is the exact opposite of what you see in the Northern Hemisphere. Of course, this study is much more in-depth, but we don't have time for that today. Having read this study, I would argue it's incredibly successful. It has heaps of evidence to substantiate its claims, it's well written, and it's a reasonable length. The only shortcoming I can really think of to mention is the fact that its figures are borderline undecipherable. It's also extremely credible. It was released in Nature, a highly esteemed journal, and has received 44 citations in the 2 years that it's been published. It also includes highly esteemed authors such as Liz Reed and Steve Bourne, who are experts in the field, so it's clear that the study itself is incredibly credible. Because of the impact of the study, it managed to secure its place in the press. Initially, both The Conversation and EGU blogs published articles, both of these being written by some of the authors of the original paper. Both of the articles did a great job in summarizing the paper in layman's terms, allowing for the article to be accessible to the public. And EGU blogs even included an incredible, wonderful, amazing figure. Thank you, EGU blogs. Various news outlets followed, including the ABC, Adelaide University, Newsroom, The Mirage, etc. These were written by the outlet's reporters, and while they did a reasonable job at summarizing the paper, they were limited by their own short word count, often sacrificing scientific accuracy for concisity. What's worse is that the ABC also included a couple of small errors in their article, which I'll put on screen right here. Also, not a single one of these articles included any figures, and so when you compare the articles written by the study's original authors and those written by the news outlet reporters, there's a clear drop in the quality of the scientific communication. Despite the wide coverage, I could find very little discussion about the study on social media. All I could really find were a couple of Reddit posts. Now, these Reddit posts generally encompass one of two things. It was either a question about the study, or it was someone providing a summary. One of the posts in particular, for example, disagreed with the study, and then went on to list something about bugs, which is completely irrelevant to the study itself. Which is hilarious, but it also goes to show one of the biggest flaws with the way this study was communicated with the public. To my understanding, there was no way that the general public could actually reach out to the authors of the paper. For example, none of the articles written had comment sections. And on the other hand, the Reddit posts were extremely niche, getting like 40 upvotes max. Even if the science is amazingly communicated, there is still a way for somebody to misinterpret it, such as the bug comment. This also begs the question, how many people read the article, came away with a misconception, and didn't clarify it due to a lack of a comment section? In this post-truth age, it's incredibly important that there is a connection between the researchers and the public, and this can be done through comment sections and discussion boards. So, in 2024, a groundbreaking study was released. The study itself was credible and well written, as were the articles released alongside it written by the authors. News outlets followed, releasing watered down but reasonable pieces. Now, while these articles were important, there was a lack of public interaction with the study. For science to be communicated at its best, we as scientists and science communicators need to strive to bridge the gap as well as we can, so us and the public are on the same page.